Hello, this is Galen Martling. Today I'm showing 3 cards, and they are vintage style Scenic cards, and I'm using stamps and dies and Betterpress and also a stencil for all of these, and those products are by Spellbinders. And I'm going to show you how I step through all of these cards. And so this is a classic car. It's made from die cuts and colored cardstock pieces of blue and white and silver and black. And I just assembled that. And then I made a little road, if you will, and sort of maybe like a winding road. I made that as a background, and I ink blended that background in light blue dye ink. And then I'm using the Betterpress to make a sunburst background and also die cut sentiments. So for the Betterpress part, this is a beautiful it's like a radiant starburst. I think that's the name of it, by Spellbinders. It's a Betterpress press plate, and I decided to ink this up using Betterpress inks, but of course dye inks work good for this as well, so any of your dye inks would work with these Betterpress plates. And then I inked it up in 2 different colors, more of a orange and one yellow, and then I used an ink blending brush to sort of blend out those colors so that it doesn't appear splotchy, and it turned out just the way I wanted it to. And so you just gently blend it out, and then I wiped away that center section as best I could and pressed it through my die cutting machine. Of course, we're not die cutting it, we're just pressing it. You place that whole Betterpress plate right in the platinum system or your Big Shot with maybe a shim, and you've got that good impression. So I ink blended the background, and then this is the die that cuts out that sunburst. These are stamps, and they go along with some of these cars, and I'm using them. I'm using the dies here and stamps, a Happy Father's Day, and then another sentiment. And this all was built and layered and just made separately each piece. So this is another card made from die cuts. This is a classic car. The first one was like a muscle car, I believe it's called. And this one is like a cruiser type of card. Here's some of the die cuts. I used all of these with different color cardstock. It was time consuming, but it was simple to do. It just takes a little patience to glue all the pieces together. So for the background on this one, I'm stenciling, and this stencil is called the Scenic Drive Stencil. It's got lots of layers in it, and so you build the scene. And once you layer them all, it just looks so beautiful. This scene could be for any card or any other big images or main images, but it also works great with this cruiser, this classic car, vintage car. And so you just go through one at a time, and you use different ink colors. So I wanted this to be very soft and light, so I used a very light blue sky, if you will. And then I come in, and there's a big sun in the background, so I wanted it also to be light, so I'm just using a very light yellow around it, and then I add a little bit more of an orange shade and ink blending after that. You have several different pieces for each of the elements in this background scene. So I'm using Catherine Pooler inks for this as for ink blending, but of course, use what you have. You can use any of your dye inks, and also distress inks, distress oxide inks, whatever you like and whatever your favorite is. For the center one, I added light yellow, and then I went with that same stencil and added right around the edges of that a little bit of orange, just to make it have a little look of ink blending on that middle, very center section. So this stencil has some trees, so it has 2 layers of trees, and I use 2 different shades of green or teal for these, just to give them a slightly different color. And also the trees overlap a bit, which is really neat. I like how it comes together. The stencil set has like a grounding area and a cloud area, and I decided to use light gray for that. I know you say light gray for clouds, I don't know, but it really made it stand out. It gave it a little more dimension. Even if you just want to put the gray on the edges of the clouds, it really does make a difference. It makes them show up better, especially on this light background. And so I was happy with how it turned out. You just want to clean your stencils in between each one, dry them off real good so that you don't transfer any color or dampness. So there you go. There's my background. And I'm going to use, I die cut that using a rectangle die. And then that's going to be the background. I'm going to add the sentiment and the car in a minute. I decided to use a side landscape style card with a top fold and a white card base. And I just used some narrow double-sided tape to adhere the classic car to that background at sort of an offset to the right, like it's coming out of the scene, if you will. And then the sentiment is added at the end. And I love it. I added some silver cardstock into there. It makes it look so real. There you have it. That's the classic car stenciled look. And then last one is, this is a speedometer. We're going to build a speedometer, but I'm also going to add another sunburst because I thought it was cool looking, especially with the speedometer, and maybe give it a look of an outdoor mimicking an outdoor scene. So this is a press plate, the same one I used before. I'm just going to ink it up a little differently on white. A tip for holding your paper is to add repositionable tape to the paper, the back of the paper that you're going to press. And it sticks onto the front of that clear layer of the Betterpress just perfectly. It holds it into place nicely. So I like to use that instead of tape. Sometimes the tape interferes with the pressing, leaves a mark. So I'm doing it this way and I like it. So here I'm adding some, I'm not sure what this color is. I'll have all the supplies listed, but it's like an orangey shade. Then I go around the outside with more of a sky look, more of a light blue. But when you combine it with this yellow, it comes out to be more of a teal color. You can also ink blend that to make it more smooth, but I like the way it turned out, so I did not ink blend on this one just to move around the color. I left it as it was, and I ran it through my die cutting machine, and this is the result. I have a little splotch there at the bottom, but I'm going to leave it because I'm only going to use part of that sunburst. And so for this speedometer has really fun sayings with it. I just chose 2 of them to add, but there's lots of sentiments. You can make it funny, or you can have it be more traditional. So I added a couple of unique ones, and then I layered that speedometer. The die cut part die cuts the speed, and you layer the white circle behind it and it shows up that way. It's really nice. So I added silver in the background, black for the speed, and then I'm adding this sunburst behind it. I'm adding a little label. All of these little icons come in this section. It's really great. It mimics all the car elements, especially vintage cars. I built this little speedometer dial, and those are all die cuts. And then I just add all of it to build the card. This one's simple, but I like the look. It's really bold. I kept it black in the background, red and silver with that sunburst. And I hope you like it. These are the cards. I hope you give it a try. Thanks so much for watching. Please take a moment to like and share if you will, and have a wonderful day.